we look at 2020, I think we have to start just looking at a macro picture. And when I think macro, I think U.S. GDP. The second quarter was the largest quarterly drop in U.S. history, followed by the largest quarterly improvement in Q3 in U.S. history. This sort of movement is so unusual. And it's something that, as we look to the future, we need to try to figure out what's next and what's going to happen. How does growth come back? In the 2008 recession, it took nearly 3 years to fully recover GDP back where it was when the recession started. This one we expect will be a little bit different, and that is probably a good thing, because certainly when we talk about GDP, that's important, but I think it's more important to talk about jobs. And as we look at the last recession, this is just change in jobs, percentage change in jobs during the last recession, and months out from when the recession started. During the financial crisis recession, it took 2 full years to reach the minimum jobs, the peak job loss. And the recovery was agonizingly long. For the United States, it took 76 months, 6 years to get back to the job count we were before. And in Illinois, it took 93 months. So it's something that job loss was less than 7% in total in that recession. And it still took 6 to 8 years to come back to where we were. As we look at this recession, again, this is 2008 that you see kind of muted color. This is where we are right now. In this current recession, last time it took 2 years to reach the bottom. This time it only took 2 months to reach the bottom. We're dealing with a very different phenomenon. And as we look at growth to go back forward, recovery has been much more rapid, but we've seen it moderate in the last couple months. So for us as an organization and all of us as community leaders, we really need to look at where our job picture is today and kind of where we're going to be on a go-forward basis. This large national impact on jobs has also been felt at the local level. This is a look at Will County unemployment over the course of the last 15 years or so. And again, during the last recession, we peaked at around 13%, and this one more than 17%. But what's interesting is we have in 6 months gotten back to an unemployment rate of 6.6%. For some context, in the last recession, it took us 5 full years to get back to an unemployment rate that we're at right now. So again, very different recessions and very different conversations about what employment means. The good news is, Will County, even with all of these impacts, and I mentioned this at the top, continues to be a job engine. Even as the state has lagged, even as the nation has lagged, Will County remains a job center. Over the course of the last 10 years, 57,000 new jobs in Will County, nearly 30% growth, while statewide jobs have been largely flat, less than 1% growth. So this is really important that not only has Will County been a job center historically, but even this year, we've seen an increase in jobs here. And that's something, again, we're very proud of the work that everyone has done to continue to make that happen. And while we're optimistic about jobs in Will County, I think it's also valuable to look at the Illinois jobs recovery. So this is a statewide look at the change in jobs from April to October. So after the big impact on jobs, what has come back? And we've seen a significant bounce from the lows. Leisure and hospitality were the hardest hit by far. They've also been the quickest to recover in terms of job counts. Transportation has remained very strong. They didn't quite have the negative impacts, and they've bounced hard back positive. This is, again, a function of the emphasis this year on supply chain during the pandemic. And this is, of course, largely driven by e-commerce. I think a lot of you intuitively know e-commerce is up. In just the last 12 months, it's up more than 22%. It's $830 billion in sales nationally, while sales overall are flat. So this trend in this emphasis on supply chain is not something that we just see in the jobs market and the wider economy. We've certainly also seen it in real estate. As we look at, industrial demand in Will County, 2020 is going to be a record year for us. We're approaching 11 million square feet of industrial space absorbed. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this term, this adds up everybody that moved into buildings in the year, subtracts everybody that moves out of buildings, gives you a net number. And again, this is just extraordinary in the midst of a pandemic. And if you remember earlier, I said, these things aren't just happening anywhere else. That's true not just, for Will County in a global sense, but also within our region. Will County is only about 17% of the northeastern Illinois industrial market today. But over the course of the last 5 years, we've been more than half of the new demand in that space. Will County, is a jobs engine. Will County is an investment engine. We continue to see Will County dominate the market in terms of investment as companies continue to see opportunities and reasons to choose Will County. But it's not just companies, people too. We continue to see housing perform pretty well. Even here in 2020, I have numbers through September. We're going to be right in line with previous years. Again, in the midst of a pandemic, to see that kind of construction demand growing is great. It's exciting. We're certainly happy to see it. I think it's important to put this in a little bit of context. In 2020, Will County is 17% of all of the single-family homes built in the state of Illinois. Look, we've always punched above our weight here. We're only about 5 or 5.5% of the population. We've always overbuilt in that space. But it's important to stress here, we were number one in the state in single-family build in 2019. We're number one again in 2020, and the margin is wider. Will County continues to be the premier destination where people want to be when they want to be in Illinois. We're doing a great job in this space. And this is a lot of credit to the communities, to the builders, to everyone in the community making this a desirable place for people to live. This is extraordinary. Will County, again, to kind of sum this up, we're leaders in job creation, we lead in new development, and we lead in new family housing. Will County continues to be such an attractive place to live and to invest.